A critical development has gone largely unnoticed: a sharp decline in Canada's aluminum exports to the United States, even as shipments to other international markets have accelerated. The turning point came in early March 2025, when the U.S. government invoked Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act to impose a 25% tariff on imported steel and aluminum, effective March 11. Canada responded swiftly with retaliatory duties on U.S. goods totaling $29.8 billion, covering select agricultural and industrial items in an effort to defend domestic industries and show it would not passively accept punitive measures. By June, the situation escalated further. The U.S. doubled the tariff on primary aluminum to 50%, specifically targeting raw metal and intensifying pressure on Canadian smelters, who historically relied on the U.S. as their primary export market. The impact became apparent in Canada's trade data by late May. Exports to the U.S., typically accounting for over 75% of Canada's aluminum shipments, dropped significantly. Between May 2024 and May 2025, the U.S. share of Canadian exports declined by 10 percentage points, down to 68%, largely due to reductions in steel and aluminum sales. While overall export volumes rose slightly, the drop in U.S.-bound shipments signaled a significant shift. In March alone, after the initial 25% tariff took effect, aluminum exports to the U.S. fell by 6.6% month-over-month. By April, shipments plummeted an additional 15.7%, as U.S. buyers sought cheaper alternatives, such as aluminum scrap and imports from other countries. May marked the fourth consecutive monthly decline, with exports slipping a further 0.9%, the lowest level of U.S.-bound aluminum trade since the pandemic lows of 2020. Canada's aluminum industry, which sent 5.46 million metric tons of metal to the U.S. in 2023, now faces a surplus that the domestic market cannot absorb. Smelters are grappling with rising inventories and declining cash flow, prompting urgent conversations with the federal government and industry leaders about long-term resilience. In response, Canadian producers have aggressively sought new export markets. Alcoa, which operates in both countries, redirected over 100,000 metric tons of Canadian aluminum to non-U.S. buyers in the first half of 2025, material that would normally go to American fabricators. European buyers, facing tight supply and elevated regional premiums, have welcomed this influx. Italy emerged as a significant new market, benefiting from EU quota systems that allow certain trusted ally aluminum imports to bypass broader tariffs. By May, Italian imports of Canadian aluminum had surged, placing Italy among the top non-US buyers. Other European countries, such as Poland and the UK, also increased imports, though to a lesser degree. Overall, non-US exports rose by 5.7% in May, reaching record highs. Mexico has also become a growing outlet for Canadian aluminum. Its proximity and role in the North American automotive and packaging sectors made it a natural alternative. By late spring, Mexican imports of Canadian aluminum rose from near zero to several $1 million worth, providing short-term relief for mid-sized smelters able to pivot logistically. Domestically, reactions have been mixed. Politically, Prime Minister Mark Carney condemned the U.S. administration's tariff hikes, calling out the justification that tied aluminum imports to fentanyl trafficking, particularly as Canada accounts for only about 1% of such flows. He pledged to protect Canadian industries and jobs through countermeasures. Economically, industry leaders have called for government support, including short-term financial aid and long-term investment in value-added processing to reduce dependence on raw aluminum exports. Canada is also leveraging its free trade agreements to secure deeper market access. Talks with the EU and UK have included quota-based proposals that would shield certain volumes of Canadian aluminum from retaliatory tariffs. Similar discussions are ongoing in Asia, particularly with Japan and South Korea, though these present logistical and structural challenges. Despite these efforts, global aluminum prices have declined. The influx of Canadian aluminum into non-US markets has outpaced demand, pressuring prices. The European duty-paid premium on COMEX dropped more than 10% from $370 to $322 per metric ton by late February. Meanwhile, the U.S. Midwest premium used to price Gulf Coast imports has risen, but not enough to offset the steep tariffs now applied to Canadian metal. Looking forward, the aluminum trade landscape remains turbulent. The latest U.S. tariff hike, effective August 1, raises the general rate on Canadian goods to 35, marking another critical juncture. Without negotiated exemptions or quota systems like those being considered with Europe, Canadian smelters may be forced to scale back or shutter older facilities, particularly in Quebec and British Columbia, where aluminum production is a major economic driver. Some industry voices are now calling for increased investment in downstream manufacturing, producing higher value goods like auto components and aerospace alloys that are less vulnerable to raw metal tariffs. Innovation in critical minerals processing and the integration of green energy in smelting operations may provide a long-term path forward. Simultaneously, Canadian trade agencies are intensifying promotion in emerging markets, particularly Southeast Asia and the Middle East, to diversify export destinations and reduce dependence on U.S. trade policies. Ultimately, the future of Canadian aluminum hinges on a mix of diplomacy, market adaptation, and innovation. Though current conditions are challenging with tariffs stacked at multiple levels, 25, then 50% for primary metal, and now 35% across all Canadian goods, the industry's pivot toward global markets reflects a structural shift. Over time, this realignment could create a more balanced and resilient trade profile, provided Canadian producers continue to adapt and advocate for fair treatment in international commerce. Thank you for watching. As an independent channel, we rely on your support to keep going. If you found this video valuable, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment below. It really helps more people find our work. Thank you for being part of our community. Check out the next video we've picked just for you.